Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host. In our 12-minute deep dive tonight, we're looking beyond our borders to a major infrastructure announcement that could reshape North Africa's economic landscape. Tunisia has unveiled an ambitious $1 billion expansion plan for its main international gateway, the Carthage Airport. This massive investment comes at a critical time for the region, with global oil prices surging past $100 a barrel due to Middle East tensions, and neighboring Egypt grappling with a historic currency plunge that has seen billions in foreign funds exit. We'll examine what this project means for Tunisia's economy, the potential ripple effects across Africa, and the fierce debate it's already sparking about national priorities. We'll also put this in context with other major stories from the continent, including Senegal's division over former President Macky Sall's candidacy for UN Secretary General, and a devastating cocoa crash in West Africa that's leaving farmers struggling despite strong global chocolate demand. First, let's get into the details of Tunisia's bold aviation bet. Our top story: the Tunisian government, in partnership with the Tunisian Civil Aviation and Airports Office, has formally announced a comprehensive $1 billion expansion and modernization of Tunis-Carthage International Airport. The project, slated to begin in the third quarter of 2026, aims to transform the facility from a regional hub into a major international gateway capable of handling the projected tourism and trade growth over the next 2 decades. The current airport, which handled approximately 6.5 million passengers in 2025, is operating at near capacity during peak seasons. The expansion plan is multifaceted. The centerpiece is a brand new terminal, Terminal 3, which will add an initial capacity for 5 million additional passengers per year. This will be complemented by a complete overhaul of the existing Terminal 1, which dates back to the 1990s. The airside infrastructure will see a 50% increase in aircraft parking stands, the extension of 2 existing runways to accommodate larger long-haul aircraft like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350, and the construction of a new air traffic control tower equipped with the latest generation technology. But why now, and why such a massive investment? To understand that, we need to look at Tunisia's economic strategy. Tourism is a cornerstone, historically contributing between 12 and 15% to the nation's GDP and employing nearly 400,000 people directly and indirectly. However, the sector has faced significant headwinds. Following the Arab Spring in 2011, tourist arrivals plummeted from a peak of 7.2 million in 2010 to just under 4.8 million in 2015. While there has been a steady recovery, reaching 6.2 million in 2024, the government believes the existing airport infrastructure is a bottleneck preventing a return to pre-revolution levels and beyond. The goal is ambitious: to attract 10 million annual visitors by 2035. Proponents argue that without this expansion, Tunisia will lose out to competitors like Morocco, Egypt, and Turkey, all of which have invested heavily in their aviation sectors. The $1 billion price tag is justified, they say, by the projected economic return. A government-commissioned study forecasts that the expanded airport will, by 2030, contribute an additional $2.3 billion annually to the national economy and create over 120,000 new jobs across tourism, logistics, and retail. Let's visualize the scale of this ambition. The projected growth in passenger traffic is staggering. From a baseline of 6.5 million passengers in 2025, the target is to reach 8.5 million by 2030 and ultimately 12 million by 2035. This represents a near doubling of capacity in a single decade. The funding model is a public-private partnership, with the Tunisian state contributing $350 million and seeking private investors and international development banks for the remaining $650 million. The International Finance Corporation and the African Development Bank have already expressed preliminary interest. However, this massive expenditure is not without its critics, and that's where the debate gets heated. Opposition voices, led by the National Salvation Front coalition, have launched a scathing critique of the project. They argue it is a misallocation of precious resources at a time of severe domestic economic strain. Tunisia is in the midst of difficult negotiations with the International Monetary Fund for a nearly $2 billion loan to address budget deficits and public debt, which stands at over 80% of GDP. Critics point to more pressing needs: a healthcare system described by the Tunisian Doctors Union as on the brink of collapse, with shortages of essential medicines and equipment in over 60% of public hospitals. an education system where classroom overcrowding averages 45 students per teacher in primary schools, and chronic unemployment, particularly among youth, which remains stubbornly high at over 28%. The opposition's central question is this: should $1 billion be spent on an airport for future tourists, or on immediate, life-changing infrastructure for Tunisian citizens? Let's hear a powerful statement from a leading critic of the plan. This sentiment is echoed by many economists who warn of white elephant risks, expensive projects that fail to deliver promised returns. They cite examples like the Berlin-Brandenburg Airport in Germany, which opened a decade late and billions over budget. The counter-argument from the government and project advocates is one of strategic necessity. The Minister of Transport, in a recent press conference, framed it as an investment in Tunisia's economic sovereignty. He argued that improving core infrastructure is the only way to break the cycle of dependency on foreign aid and loans. By generating its own sustainable revenue through increased tourism and cargo, Tunisia can, in the long run, better fund its social services. It's a classic debate of short-term pain for long-term gain versus addressing immediate human needs. To put this $1 billion figure in a regional context, let's compare it with other major African airport projects announced or completed in the last 5 years. As you can see, Tunisia's project is significant but not unprecedented. Ethiopia's Addis Ababa Bole Airport expansion, completed in 2023, cost an estimated $4 billion. Kenya's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport ongoing upgrade is budgeted at $650 million. Ghana's Kotoka International Airport new terminal, opened in 2022, came in at $275 million. Morocco's Marrakesh Menara Airport expansion was $240 million. This comparison shows Tunisia is aiming for the upper tier of regional aviation hubs, directly competing with Addis Ababa and Nairobi for transit traffic between Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. The strategic timing is also linked to global energy markets. With oil prices now consistently above $100 a barrel due to the Strait of Hormuz crisis, efficient air travel and logistics become even more critical for non-oil producing nations like Tunisia to control costs. This brings us to the wider continental backdrop, which is marked by both crisis and opportunity. In Egypt, the currency has plunged to a historic low, triggering capital flight estimated in the billions of dollars. This economic instability in a North African neighbor makes Tunisia's push for foreign investment even more challenging, as it competes for a shrinking pool of risk-tolerant capital. Meanwhile, in West Africa, a catastrophic crash in cocoa prices, down over 40% from peaks in 2024, has left farmers in Ivory Coast and Ghana in dire straits. Beans are literally rotting in warehouses. This is a stark reminder of the volatility of commodity-dependent economies and underscores Tunisia's desire to diversify into services like tourism. Further west, Senegal is politically divided over former President Macky Sall's bid to become the next UN Secretary General, a candidacy that has sparked protests and accusations of elite maneuvering. These stories paint a picture of a continent at a crossroads, where leadership decisions on massive projects like the Carthage airport expansion will have consequences for decades. So, what are the potential outcomes? We can envision 3 main scenarios. Scenario 1, the success story. The expansion is completed on time and on budget by 2030. Tourism surges, hitting the 10 million visitor target by 2035. New direct flights from Asia and North America are established. Cargo volumes triple. The project becomes an engine of growth, funding improved social services and validating the government's strategic bet. Scenario 2, the stalled compromise. Funding gaps emerge, causing delays. The project is scaled back, perhaps with Terminal 3 built but the Terminal 1 refurbishment postponed. Passenger growth is moderate, reaching only 8 million by 2035. The economic boost is positive but not transformative, and public debt increases due to cost overruns. Scenario 3, the white elephant. Global economic headwinds, perhaps a prolonged recession in Europe, cripple tourism demand. The new terminals sit underutilized. The debt burden from the project exacerbates Tunisia's fiscal crisis, leading to austerity measures that hurt the very citizens who oppose the spending. Most analysts consider Scenario 2 the most likely, but the stakes for Scenario 1 or 3 are enormous. As we conclude this deep dive, the story of Tunisia's $1 billion airport is more than an infrastructure report. It is a case study in 21st century nation building. It pits visionary economics against grassroots pragmatism. It highlights the fierce competition between African nations to capture global flows of people and capital. and it raises fundamental questions about development priorities that resonate far beyond Tunis. Can a nation build its future by betting big on global connectivity, or must it first secure the well being of its people at home? There is no easy answer, but the construction cranes at Carthage Airport, when they arrive, will be building more than just runways and terminals. They will be building Tunisia's answer to that very question. For Kenya News Update today, this has been a 12-minute analysis. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today.